Hello, I am Hailey Johnson,
I'm Karl Volk.
and we are presenting our paper, All Text Social Forensics, Forensic Analysis of Alternative Social Networking Applications by myself, Hailey Johnson, Karl Volk, Robert Serafin, Cinthya Grajeda, and Dr. Ibrahim Baggili from the University of New Haven. This material is based upon work supported by the National Science Foundation under grant numbers 1900210 and 1921813. Any opinions, findings, and conclusions or recommendations that are expressed in this material are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Science Foundation. Just to go over some author information, I, Hailey, am receiving my master's in cybersecurity and networks. I have also listed my email as contact information. Karl Volk received his bachelor's in cyber systems. Robert Serafin received his bachelor's in computer engineering and his master's in cybersecurity and networks. Cinthya Grajeda is our cybersecurity lab and grants manager, and Dr. Ibrahim Baggili is an Elder Family Endowed Chair and Director at the Connecticut Institute of Technology.
So on our agenda today, we're just going to start with the introduction, and we're going to move on to research questions and contributions. Then we're going to review our methodology, then discussion of the results and findings. Then we're going to move on to the analysis and presentation of the tool that was created. And finally, we're going to end with a conclusion. So our introduction here. So we performed forensic analysis of 9 different alternative social media networking applications. These include Parler, MeWe, CloudHub, Minds Mobile, Minds Chat, SafeChat, Getter, Wimkin, and Second First. Testing and analysis was performed on both Android and iOS mobile devices. A command line tool was then developed based on our findings in order to automate the extraction of relevant artifacts from a forensic image and create a report from the user. So the motivation and research questions, there was several motivating factors for this research and the applications that were selected. Alt text social networking applications are growing in popularity and have links to extremist individuals, including some who were involved in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol building. The platform chosen has been discussed in news articles and were marketed as free speech platforms that use little censorship. And law enforcement also needs a reliable and fast method to obtain data from these newer applications. The research questions we aim to answer involved the data that could be found related to these applications, how to extract the most relevant information for investigators, and how to create an automated method of extracting and organizing major evidence. So this is our application downloads. This table displays application download information, as well as the application's capabilities, the tests we performed, and the data that was able to be retrieved. Not only were these applications discussed in articles and blogs, but a number of downloads was also a determining factor in selecting them. Active user statistics were searched for. However, there was not a definitive number of active users obtained. Therefore, we turned to user download information gathered from credible sources such as the Google Play Store to depict the popularity of the applications. Although many of the applications had similar functionality, some lacked the messaging features. Similar artifacts were discovered across the applications. However, private messaging data was not found for all the applications, even the ones that had the feature. The artifacts found will be discussed more later on.
Now, moving on to related work. The current literature related to forensic analyses of mobile applications is fairly vast and includes a host of different applications and operating systems. Many of the applications that were discussed and investigated include Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other popular, more mainstream social media applications. Work conducted on instant messaging includes popular apps like WhatsApp, Viber, Wicker, etc. We also turned to less technical research related to extremist propaganda in social media and found relevant literature speaking to the more behavioral aspect of the spread of propaganda in social media. Now moving on to the contributions that this work provides. This work contributes a primary mobile and network forensic analysis of 9 different alternative social networking applications, as well as a collection of the discovered artifacts that will be shared through the Artifact Genome Project at the link provided, as well as an upgraded Python tool that can be used by digital forensic investigators in order to extract and analyze relevant data from these applications, which can be found at the GitHub link provided.
So this is our apparatus. This table displays the tools and devices we utilized. The 2 main mobile phones we used were the Samsung Galaxy S6 and an iPhone 8. The Android ZTE and the iPhone 6S were used to populate data for the applications that were only available on one of the operating systems. For example, Second First was only available for iOS. So the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 6S were used to interact and generate data for that application. So for our methodology and approach, our methodology includes 4 phases: the setup and scenario creation, data acquisition, data analysis, and tool enhancement. In the setup and scenario creation, the phones were factory reset and rooted prior to testing. A scenario was then created that aimed to test the application's functionalities as well as imitate realistic user activity. So the data acquisition phase involved imaging the Android and iOS devices using Magnet Acquire, and network traffic was captured during the testing of these applications, but it was noted that most of the traffic was encrypted and no essential artifacts were found. During the data analysis phase, forensic tools were used to analyze relevant artifacts. The tool created is an enhanced version of a tool created for a previous research project. This final phase allows investigators to extract and view important artifacts from a forensic image in a much more efficient manner.
Now we're going to be moving on to our findings. So the following slides contain a table summarizing important artifacts that were extracted across all forensic acquisitions. The important information that was noted includes user ID, name, email, phone number, username, timestamps, posting comments on the feed, media that was posted, chat message information, files that were sent and received through private messages, and cache data. This information is important because it helps the investigator to recreate a timeline. This data provides the times a user was active on the application, if and what they were posting and commenting on, other users they might have been interacting with, and the different times that events might have taken place. The black Android icon symbolizes that the artifact was found on an Android phone, and the gray Apple icon symbolizes that the artifact was discovered on an iPhone device. Account and user information is important since it links the user to their account. Out of the 9 applications that were tested, 6 of them stored information about user accounts. 10 of these artifacts that were discovered between the 6 applications were databases that contained user information such as usernames, user IDs, full names, and the user's email or phone number depending on what they had used to create their account, as well as timestamps related to different events. Posting information and commenting on posts are very important features of social media applications. 8 of the 9 applications were found to locally store some of this information. Not only were artifacts discovered that recorded the posts that were made on the feed, but several applications also downloaded the media that had been posted by the user and was able to be discovered through different media folders. Private chat information can be extremely important to an investigation and can help reconstruct events and provide insight into the user's interactions, who they were interacting with, and what their intentions might have been. 9 artifacts discovered between the 9 different social media applications stored some type of chat information. For the Android and iOS devices, MeWe and SafeChat stored similar databases that contained information related to chat messages. Wimkin on the Android device also contained a similar database containing chat information, and CloudHub for the iOS device contained a database with cached data that stored chat information. Another prevalent category of data retrieved from almost all of the applications from both of the devices was cached data. This can contain a plethora of data that can be powerful in an investigation. Through analysis, we were able to locate relevant cached artifacts. The cache can also be used as kind of a secondary location in order to identify where evidence might have been stored. In total, 88.9% of the applications stored some type of cached data that was relevant. Many of the applications also had a similar structure for how they stored the information. And although the data itself might have varied, there were certain important folders that stored information that was relevant. For the Android device, this included the databases, shared prefs, and cache folders. And for iOS, this was the caches and TMP or temp folders. Now we're just going to move on to show some important or interesting artifacts that we discovered. This is an example of a MeWe database named App Database, which is a masqueraded SQL database. Specifically, we are showing the chat message table. And as you can see, we can see the created at timestamp, the content in plain text, as well as different attachment information. There's also user information that was located in this as well that is not visible in this specific screenshot. Another interesting artifact that was discovered was the io.invertase.firebase.xml file that was retrieved from Wimkin. This XML file contains notification information. So whenever the user account received a notification, whether it was a user liking their post or commenting on their post, or someone posting something on the feed, or the user receiving a private message or something like that, it would be stored in this XML file in plain text. Information about the sender can also be seen, as well as different IDs and timestamps. While it was not our goal to find vulnerabilities, during the testing phase, some potential security vulnerabilities were discovered just through our analysis. 3 of the applications were found to allow for personal data to be accessed without proper authentication or authorization. Unencrypted links to media posted and sent through direct messages were stored and able to be accessed by simply copying and pasting the link to the browser in some instances. A database was found to store post and chat information and also contained private information from channels that had been created. So some of this private information included phone numbers, addresses, and emails that were used during the account creation. This is private information that would not have been able to be seen just looking at the public account on the application itself, but this was stored in plain text in the database. Also, an XML file stored an account password as an MD5 hash. So this is the example of the artifact that stores the password as an unsalted MD5 hash, as you can see here. And this is a security concern because this algorithm is weak and susceptible to collision attacks. Tokens and API keys can also be seen stored in this file. Now I'm gonna show a quick demo of being able to access media that had been sent where the link is visible in the database and no authentication is required. So here I have pulled up a safe chat database with the message table. And you can see all of this private message information. In the body section, you can see if there was media that had been sent or received. So this was media that had been received. And as you can see over here, there's a link to the media. So you can simply copy it and paste it in the web browser. And as you can see, the video here can be played without needing any type of authentication from the user. Other applications did require the user to sign into the account. And sometimes the information would not be accessible unless the user actually signed in and the proper account was signed into. We did inform the companies about the potential bugs or vulnerabilities that we discovered, and they have been given time to rectify these issues if they deemed it necessary.
So now we're going to move on to our tool development. The Alternative Social Networking Applications Analysis Tool, also known as ASNAT, is an enhanced version of a previous Python tool created. The new enhancements include hyperlinks in the report that redirect the users to actual artifacts. SHA-256 hashes for each artifact file are automatically hashed and included in the file report, and different reports for each application, making it easier to view the presented evidence. The high-level algorithm shows that to use the tool, Python 3 is required, as well as a tar image of the device. So the tool output, once the tool completes analyzing and extracting data from the image, an HTML report is provided. This is an example of an Apple forensics report. Displays the image information, extraction time, and hashes before and after analysis to ensure that nothing was altered. The application tabs can be seen from each application present in the forensic image. The database hyperlinks allow our user to be redirected right to the database instead of having to locate it themselves for further analysis. In this slide, a hash table is provided at the end to display the SHA-256 hashes of each artifact discovered. And this is an example of an Android forensics report. As you can see here, the reports are set up the same way for both operating systems. The database and XML files in the report do not display the whole file, but rather just the important information to provide an overview of what is contained. This is why the hyperlinks are useful if someone is interested in viewing the entire file. So the data is also displayed with user information being first, if it's present, since that would be likely the first step in linking the account to the owner in the investigation.
Now moving on to the conclusion. Alt tech applications have become increasingly popular, and it's important to have an effective way of extracting and analyzing artifacts that might be crucial to ongoing investigations. Through our analysis, different extracted data information included things such as usernames, emails, full names, phone numbers, profile pictures, post and comment information, and private message information in plain text. The ASNAT tool can provide a quick and reliable way to extract and analyze important information related to these applications. Now on to limitations and recommended future work. Due to the large number of data that was recovered, not all of the artifacts that were discovered are discussed in this paper. This paper discusses the artifacts that have been identified as most important and most relevant. During the testing phase, there were updates that had been made. And although these didn't necessarily change the functionality of the features of our applications, significant changes were actually seen in data during preliminary testing and data that was retrieved during final testing. Specifically, we saw this with the Parler application. During preliminary testing of an earlier version of this application, cached data related to post and comment information was able to be seen. However, during testing, little to no data was recovered, and these same databases that had been discovered during preliminary testing were no longer discovered during final testing of a newer application version. Future work should focus on updated versions of applications as well as newly developed applications. And in order to maintain the tool, future work should also include continual testing of the tool and improvements based on new and updated applications. Thank you for listening. Feel free to reach out with questions or ideas for improvement. This is the contact information for some of the authors. We have myself, Karl, and Rob. We have our emails listed. We also have the GitHub link to the tool, as well as the link to the Artifact Genome Project to get more in-depth information about the artifacts that we discovered. And these are our references. Thank you.